welcome to Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele, and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shares. So it's been a while, guys. I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I am exhausted. Also, as a side note, I need to fix my camera. It's all wonky. As a side note, I am currently on, if I seem a little fuzzy or, someone's like, has Bryan been drinking on the job? I am on some muscle relaxers right now. I hurt my back. That back injury that I had talked about a while back is, in fact, a bigger deal than it was. I've had some x-rays done and stuff. But for now, they've got me on some muscle relaxers, and they do make me a little fuzzy. So if I seem a little off, that is likely it. But I do have my caffeine here, so that should help. We're in good shape. We'll do the Week in Bryan in a minute, or in a little bit, but let's talk about my trip. So I had Con and Adepticon back to back, which it looks like next year that is not going to happen. Looks like there's going to be at least 1 week between the two, because next year Adepticon is being moved into April, which, while I love getting to see all my friends that, kind of concentrated together from both sides of my career, role-playing and the minis, it's exhausting. It's taxing, and it actually hurts a lot of my my bottom line, because I don't get a chance to get a lot of work done in that time. Deadlines get moved around and whatnot, so it creates a lot of stress before and after, not being able to get any work done or answer emergency work stuff and things like that. So I'm very excited for next year. But let's go ahead and just talk about how the shows were. That's why you're here, and then we'll get to the Week in Bryan after. Obviously we'll start with Con. Con was awesome, as normal. Expensive. The Lake Geneva, or the Grand Geneva, is a very pricey hotel. It's great. It's awesome. It's got everything you need. But I was reminded why, generally speaking, we do not stay there even as special guests. It's just expensive. It's a pricey. It's a lot of change to drop just to be attached to the where all this stuff is happening. That being said, obviously still loved the show, loved everything about it. Got to see. First I got to hang out with my wife at a show. So Natalie does not go to conventions. Part of her disability. It's very expensive for us to board the dogs, find somebody to take care of the cats. It's an ordeal. I'd like to be able to get to a place where I can take her to more shows. She really, really enjoys them. She had a blast. But as that these shows are work for me, I find myself caught into an interesting situation sometimes, where I feel like I'm neglecting her by going out and doing business stuff or running back-to-back events, and so it is a little, not harder. It's not the right word. It's just different. It's just set up different when I can bring Natalie to a show. But that being said, she got a chance to play a bunch of new game systems, a couple of which I have not actually played after their beta. So no, she had a blast. She had a good time. She set me up with a handful of events in some of my off times. I got to play Hyperborea, which it's awesome because I used to work for Conan, so being in the Conan world and just getting to be a player is fantastic. The Hyperborea system, is very good, but it's very reminiscent of old school D&D. A lot of the mechanics are very similar. So it was just a really fun. That was a really really fun session. Had a great time. And I guess most importantly, it reminded me of some of the other systems out there that I haven't really dipped my toes in too deeply. So I'll be able to look out to do more of that stuff in the future. My own games that I ran, my Intergalactic Heroes game was phenomenal. From a game master's perspective, it went really well. The players had a good time. Everybody at the table, with one exception, everybody at the table was either someone who had played in one of my games before, and they specifically sought me out as a game master, which is very flattering. Or it was someone who played in like an Intergalactic Heroes or Everyday Heroes game that I have ran, and they just really, really loved the system. So they jumped on it when they saw that there was some being played. And then there was just one person who knew Everyday Heroes outside of the convention circuit. Like they know the game, and they were like, well, if it's made by the same people and it's compatible, I'll understand this. And she had a blast. She had a ton of fun. It was a great session, and I am extremely happy with the responses I got at the end of the session. There were several people like, where can we get this? When is this book coming out? Which is, it's very promising. It makes you feel good knowing that you're creating or have created something that people want. I was supposed to run a session for the Gygax, for the Gygax Society organized play, but it was at a weird time slot, and I showed up. I hung around for a while, and there were no one had the tickets, but the other tables were full. So I think it was just a matter of weird time slot. I don't know. And then my personal capstone to GaryCon as a game master was I did get to run the very first outside player Thundercats role playing game. We had a blast. It was a Sunday morning slot, so it did mean that we had a one no show, and nobody from the wish list showed up. But it was the early morning Sunday, so who knows what happened on their Saturday night. But it was good time, good players. One of the players was somebody who had backed the Kickstarter, so they just really kind of wanted to test things out. And then two of the players were actually people that I knew, personally. So it was a good time. We just had a really good time. I got my snarf voice was on pat or down pat, because obviously the name of the session, it was Snarf told me to do it. So there was some snarfing, and it made some of the players laugh every time that he said something or acted like a coward, or it was cool. It was a good session. And more importantly for me, I learned a couple of the encounters in that convention adventure are potentially superfluous. Like they did feel like they might just be there to fill up time. So in my little logbook, I noted which ones were the ones that seemed to take a long time, which ones seemed to take less time than anticipated. So I've got a better roadmap of what that adventure really should do. Obviously, everything's different for every player or every player group, and I normally only run an adventure once or twice. This is the first time for this one, and I think I'm running it again at MomoCon in May. But I'll have brand new adventures for like GameholeCon and stuff. So yeah, me as a game master had a blast. It was great. It was awesome to interact with players, learn, see some of the players that are returning customers. So that's always fun. They like my style. They like what I do. They like the voices that I do, and they sought me out as a game master, and that means the world to me. I love that. That makes me very happy. On a on a personal note, work related note, I don't know. I did put that diorama in the charity auction, and I was running a game at the same time as the charity auction, so I didn't get to actually see the bidding happening. I also wasn't there to explain anything to the audience or anything like that, and it ended up going for very, very little. It was a definitely, whoever got a hold of it by as per the auction, they got a steal. Now I hear this late when someone sent me a text message to let me know, and I was like, oh really? That was a lot of work for not a whole lot of charity. But I get a text message from my wife later on with a picture showing the guys that got it. And they're holding it, and they look obviously happy. And she tells me a little story about how she saw them kind of carrying it and just wanted to go over and say, oh, hey, my husband made that, thanks for bidding and whatnot, since I could not be there to do the same. And apparently they were a group of, it's like a gaming group of like 7 guys. Only 3 of them came to GaryCon. And one of the things that they do is they run like a D&D summer camp for kids. And they are going to use the diorama as kind of a way to help show the kids that what you're doing can go with, you can take it with you for the rest of your life, that there is just as many adults as there are kids, and that play these games. And it's exactly like the moral of the piece is that D&D is literally for everybody if you want to play and have a good time, no matter how old or young you may be. And when she was talking to them, I don't know the exact exchange, but whatever happened is they wanted to get my signature on it, because they were like, well, if he's here, he should sign the bottom or something. Well, what they didn't know is I already had. I did that before I packed it up because I knew I wasn't going to be at the auction. So they were looking at it, and they found the signature, and they had a good laugh of, oh, I guess he's already ahead of the game. And they decided, because of the quality of the piece, and they found out, it wasn't said during the auction, but they found out that the War Dukes could be removed for use as gaming pieces, and they decided amongst the 3 of them that it should have sold for more, so they upped their bid to a more they went to the auction place and basically was like, hey, instead of paying X amount, we're going to pay this amount because it's really worth that much more. So that's awesome. That's an interesting and fun tale of the piece that took me forever to put together. And I don't know if I'll be doing many more charity dioramas. I think there's other things that I can do that won't take up nearly as much as my time for charity. So I think that's the route I'm probably going to want to go from here on out. The other highlight of the charity auction actually came from my wife. So Natalie was working. Natalie, if you've seen any of her stuff, if you've ever gone to Artemis Portraits and looked at some of her work, she's an unbelievably talented pencil or charcoal artist. Just phenomenal. And she has a series of pieces that she sold at shows before that are half and half faces, where one half is the actor and the other half is the character that they play. So she's like half of Robert Downey Jr., and then Iron Man, half Chris Evans, half Captain America. She's got a bunch of those, and so what she decided to do last year, when her Gary piece did so well, she talked to Joe Manganiello and was like, hey, I would love to do a piece. Would you be willing to sign it to try and jack up the charity costs? It's a signed piece of him or his character. And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. But Joe did not show up to GaryCon this year because he was in South Africa filming. Hollywood life. But because he was there, not there filming, she couldn't show him her piece. So what she had been working on literally all the way up to the night before the submission to the auction is one of those half pieces, but half of it is Joe's face and half of it is Arkan the Cruel, his dragonborn from Critical Role and the various books that he now exists in. Very cool. It is unbelievably she's so good. She is so good. It's a very cool picture. And so she put it up for auction, even though Joe was not going to be there. Her highlight and my kind of post-show highlight when I found out about it is that Luke Gygax and Vince Vaughn. So I know Luke, but I've never, other than like literally hello over a coffee, I've never met Vince. The two of them got into a bidding war over Natalie's piece because they wanted to be the one that bought it and gave it to Joe when they get together next. So it was very cool to hear, and I know that it did wonders for her, that self-esteem boost of I did a good thing. So yeah, it was very, very cool. Charity auction raised a total of $120,000 and change for the Extra Life Foundation. I am always staggered at the amount of generosity and, frankly, financial stability of some of these con goers to be able to do these multi-$1,000 bids on game paraphernalia or game adjacent products like a D&D pinball machine signed by a bunch of artists and things. Went for like 10 grand. And I'm sure these guys are all, like they've got backers or there's people that are helping fund that. And yeah, it's charity, so it's a tax write-off, but it is still just the sheer volume of people wanting to do these things and help out with the charity is amazing. I'm always blown away by it. I forgot. One of the other things that I ran while I was at the charity, while the charity auction was going on, I ran a learn to play event for Warzone Eternal at GaryCon. GaryCon's not really known for its miniature games. It's definitely a role-playing game show, but there is a full room and section where they have minis games, and a lot of them are old school. A lot of them like old chainmail and Napoleonics and whatnot. But when I was setting up my events, I asked Luke. I was like, "Hey, what are the chances that a miniature game is going to do well there?" I've got this new miniature game that's doing really well. It's up for an Origins Award. I would love to, show people how to play. And so I brought my Warzone stuff. I put a cap at 8 players. Just one of those. I don't want to risk it being enormous, but I also don't want to have it only be 2 dudes sitting at a table. Well, all 8 spots sold out really fast, which is, it was staggering. I did not expect that out of GaryCon. And when everybody came to the table, there was 3 out of the 8 are people that already play miniatures games, and 2 were people that have played miniatures games but not really, not really into it, but they were just curious. And then the other 3 or 4 were just people that were I thought this looked like a cool concept and I want to give it a try. People that have never picked up a mini in their life. So it was awesome. It was, and they had a good time. A bunch of people learned stuff that I wasn't doing sales, obviously, but there were a bunch of people that were we're gonna go and find the website and go buy some stuff. It was good. It was a test. I don't know if I'll do it again because it was a lot of stress to carry all the terrain and maps and minis, and we had one mini breakage from someone who didn't really know how to handle miniatures. But overall, it was a good experience and a reminder to me that we made a damn good rule set, because these gamers, some of which who had never played minis games before, once they got into the game and got going, they really were able to kind of run with it on their own. You know, they understood the language, they understood how the rules were put together, and I barely had to do anything other than occasionally ask a corner question that, you know, comes up now and again. So yeah, collectively, GaryCon was just a blast. It was a great time. I love going to that show, whether it's as a gamer or a guest or whatever. I love running events for people that really want to be there to play. And I love getting a chance to spend some time with Natalie away from the house, away from our daily grind. So it was just an all around good thing. And then I got done. I went home. I did laundry. I pet my dogs, and dropped Natalie off. And then I turned right back around and off to Adepticon I went. So for the people who don't know, Adepticon is the largest miniatures game convention in the U.S. Last year, it had about 10,000 attendees. This year, Hank says that it was just over 12,000. So it grew larger by 20% in 1 year. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with moving to the new location. Last year was the first year at the new location, so there was some skepticism, and then obviously word of mouth got it bopped around because it got people going. Now, it did not feel crowded. Like it's the Baird Center is really the new location is really good. It spreads people out. It gives people good good side areas to be able to run their own games. The free play area is enormous, and everything's just spread out enough that you can get to wherever you want to go pretty quick, but you're not stacked on top of each other. The Baird Center does have one big drawback, and that is the cost of food. Literally every meal, lunch or otherwise, is going to be $25 to $30, which it sucks. You know, I hate spending that much money there, even if it is an expense. It's a lot of scratch that just goes because you have to eat, obviously, otherwise you get sick. So yeah, that's probably my only my only negative to the Baird Center. That, and there's no good parking that doesn't cost like $30 a day. So take that for what you will. The presence, I went there with Warzone Eternal. I did have a chance to do a little talking about Xeogenesis to a couple of other people there. Because again, minis gamers and the guys from ZG did not actually go to the show. They didn't have a booth. Last minute decisions and whatnot. They're focusing more on getting the product out the door and getting everything squared away with the backers, which I absolutely can commend. So I did get a chance to do some chit chat with some of the Xeogen people that knew that I'm now on that project too. But primarily, I was there for Warzone Eternal. And to say that we came out swinging would be an absolute just as an underestimation. We did great on sales. We could have done better. That's not to say, like, you know, we did anything wrong. There were just some hiccups and unfortunate circumstances. Like we originally were supposed to have our booth right next to the place that was doing our point of sale games and gears, but then things got moved around and we were in a smaller booth and we were farther away, and so now it was a lot of, hey, where can I buy this? And we either walk them physically over to the games and gears booth, or kind of point out the direction, give them the booth number, and hope that they make it. So I know that we could have done better. Our sales stock itself was heavily weighted towards faction starters, so we sold out of a lot of unit boxes. But I think next time we need to go a little lighter on the starter boxes and a little heavier on the unit boxes, just to kind of balance things out to as where the sales were showing. Maybe not equal, or maybe not super deep, but more than just a handful, because they are going to go fast. Adepticon is a minis heavy show. We released the Nasal for Algaroth. We had our first show copies there, and they did pretty well. The web store has them, so if you are an Algaroth player, if you just want a model that's never a model for something that has had stats since 1997 but never created, go to Trenchworks, order the Nasal and get it directly from him, because it's a cool model. It does amazing things on the tabletop, and it is literally the first time it's ever existed since the concept of the creature was designed in the Dark Eden source book in 1997. Let's see what else. Oh, we announced a partnership with the Silver Heron. Silver Heron is a EU-based fabricator and fulfillment center. So they are going to handle our EU and for the time being UK fulfillment and fabrication. So that's pretty cool. We'll be able to get models out to people faster and easier without paying a bunch of import taxes from the US. So yeah, no, it was a great. It's a great announcement. It's not finalized. I mean, the relationship is finalized, but they haven't like released all the details and stuff. I think that's happening a little later. I think they're getting everything squared away, so it'll happen sometime in April. I think sometime this month. The free play area was constantly booming. Part of that is due to our good friend and buddy, the ambassador of goodwill, Cormac. They had like between 2 and 4 Warzone tables in the free play just constantly. There was someone down there looking for games, which is very cool to see and hear. Next year, we're hoping to have a little better of a better arrangement for people to have places to play, but more on that in the future once we have more information and permissions and the like. As for the the Adepticon events themselves, so we had 3 official events. Last year we just had the one. We just had the Warzone Eternals, which last year Eternals had 27 attendees, and then like 2 dropped out very quickly. This year we had I'm gonna maybe work backwards. So because I'm gonna talk Eternals. You know what? I'll keep it in order. So our first main event was a build and play event. The first time that we've tried to do this, where the show where Adepticon charges a much larger fee for the ticket, but the person who buys the ticket gets a free faction starter of their choice while supplies last. So basically, they set up a bunch of tables, set up terrain, grab some dice, and kind of give people half hour, 45 minutes to assemble their models, and then show them the basics of the game. It's not like a tournament or a deeply structured demo or anything. It's just, all right, we're going to show you guys how to play, and if you have any questions, our wonderful demo core officer Gray will help you out. In this case, Gray was running it. We learned a lot. We had 17 slots, which is a huge build and play. Next year, I think we're going to try and do 2 build and plays with smaller numbers, so it makes it more manageable for the amount of hobby supplies and Gray's attention. Get maybe a second person down there to help Gray facilitate that sort of thing. But it was great. It was awesome. At least 3 of those build and play people I know came back to the store to buy more and build up more of their faction. 2 of which showed up to like every event that we did just to kind of hang out and be part of the community. And now are active on our Discord. So like the concept behind the build and play, what we wanted those to do, absolutely hit the nail on the head, and it worked the way that it's supposed to do. And a lot of that has to do with Gray. He's an amazing demoer. He's a great teacher and just an all-around good guy. Very personable, and I think that helps a great deal when you're trying to sell somebody on a community, or sell someone in a game and the community attached to it, is if your ambassador of that game reflects so much of like what you're trying to do with the game. If it's a super competitive, crunchy, thing, then it's the demo person is probably going to have that attitude. And again, if that's what you're trying to exude, then you could do it. In our case, we are trying to build a fun game that can be competitive, but for the most part, it's just a fun game about getting together and enjoying the community. Gray is perfect at that, and so I absolutely hat tip to him. He did an amazing job. Generated a bunch of new players, got some more people involved, got some more people talking and enjoying things, which is exactly what a build and play is supposed to do. That night, we had the narrative event. So the narrative event, the Siege on Stahler's compound, we built a 9 foot by 3 foot long table where one end is a Bauhaus themed kind of refueling center motor pool sort of thing with a big giant tank in the middle, fences all around it, and then there was a 3 by 3 section in the middle that was kind of a no man's land, boxes and things to hide behind, but more or less kind of blasted wasteland. And then the last table was the 3 by 3 at the end was a more or less open field where there's just like crates to hide behind, a couple of sniper towers. I considered it kind of like a forward encampment for the Agents of Light. The mission itself was they had to destroy the tank and a couple of silos. Technically, it's whoever got the most victory points, or the race to 12, I think. And each different buildings were worth certain victory points, and Stahler's worth 6, and so there was ways to score victory points on the Agents of the Light side, ways to score victory points on the Servants of Darkness side, and so what we ended up with is it was like 3 Bauhaus and 2 Algaroth players in the Servants of Darkness, and then we had like 2 Mishima, 2 Capital, and a Brotherhood. No, yeah, that's right. Over on the Agents of Light. And it was a blast. They had a great time. I cooked up these alternate activation cards, so if you didn't want to move a person, you could use these cards instead to do fun things, fun narrative things, including like airstrikes or shoot the main gun on the tank. And in the first turn, the Agents of Light players decided that they were just going to send as many airstrikes at Stahler that they possibly could. And they ended up coming within 1 bad die roll of killing him in literally the first turn. Would have been a little anticlimactic to have him just get offed immediately, but there was a lot of laughs, a lot of oh my god, I can't believe this is happening, and they wasted almost all of their airstrike cards because there's a limited number in the deck. The game continued, and it started to show. There were a lot of really cool moments. A Shadow Walker and a Mortificator kind of side by side flanked in from the side and ended up killing a Nephirite before the Nephirite had a chance to do anything. There were several dark cards in the deck that allowed corpses of good guys to rise up as Undead Legionnaires, and one of the Dark Side player, one of the Servants of Darkness players, is very heavy into Undead Legionnaires. So he was like, that was like his thing is that a trooper? Did he die? He's now a zombie. It was cool. It was they had a blast, and it started to become apparent that the Agents of Light team was really not built for a siege. They had a lot of close combat, and most of their heavy weapons were like area deniability or scouring of troops, not so much things that were going to punch tank armor, even with the alternate ammunition, anti-tank ammo that that people could be given with the activation cards. And so it got to, our time slot was 5:30 to 11. The room is technically open till midnight. That's when they kind of kick you out. So when it got to about 10:30 during the event, I was like, all right, we can keep going and do another turn. But at that point, the turns were taking about an hour. So I asked the players, are you willing to basically stay all the way butting as close up as you can to that midnight? Or do we want to go ahead and, like, finish up, clean up, shake hands, whatnot? And while the players were trying to figure out how this thing was going to end, I believe it was our friend Julian who said, why don't we do cage match between all of the leaders and Staller? And initially, I thought it was just, ha ha ha, it's a joke. And then the players all started getting behind the idea, and they loved the concept. And so they started taking apart some of the table to create literally taking the high fences off of the compound and built a, like, World Wrestling Federation style cage, like Hell in a Cell cage, put Staller in there, and then they started rolling initiative to find out which of the Agents of Light leaders could go into the cage to fight. And somebody had grabbed some of the line of sight laser lights and were doing laser light show. Lex turned on the Mortal Kombat theme on his phone. I mean, it was the perfect end to a narrative event the whole point of why we did it was to build the community, to build camaraderie, and to blow off some steam before Eternals the night after. And it was awesome. It was amazing. So much so that one of the other players from the only other event that was in the same room as us at that time left their event, walked over and was like, "What are you doing? What is this?" Because people were standing on chairs. It was crazy. So I told the guy, I was like, "Yeah, no, this is Warzone Eternal, kinda. It's sort of." The big unexpected ending to a narrative event. And he's like, "Oh, that's really cool," and then went back to his game. The feel and the energy and everything that came off of that game definitely did what we wanted it to do, and showed to us that maybe having two narrative events next year, or running the same narrative event twice, because this narrative event sold out so fast and had such a big wish list, that I do think that we'd be able to probably run it twice next year. So we'll see. Maybe not this obviously not this particular one. I'm real big on trying not to run the same thing more than once because the surprises go away. But we could probably build something similar, or something drastically different but just as cool in narrative. And so the wheels are already turning on that. Then we have Eternals. Take a sip. So the Warzone Eternal Champions Tournament. Let me show you my scoring sheet after all that. So these are all, I know it's just a bunch of gobbledygook, but it is a very specific tournament set, which, by the way, the scenarios played during Eternals are going to be in Tournament Kit 2, which once we get everything tweaked and put together in pretty format, we'll get that on the website for downloads. I know that I did pre-sale on the first tournament kit. I still have some coins if people want to buy coins, but as far as the actual tournament scenarios themselves, I think we're just going to post them and let people do it, without having to charge them for the extra headache of all that. But so we had 28 people sign up, 24 people show up. I went back into the system later and discovered one was someone who got sick. We had seen them earlier that day and they just got sick. One was someone who had frantic painting that needed to be done before an event on the following day, so they decided to skip out. And then we had two just no-shows. I'm assuming these are people that probably just didn't end up making it to Adepticon, which that happens. So we ended up with 24 players, which is still, As a side note, it is roughly the same amount of people that were at the Malifaux Championships, which is a game that has been around a lot longer, and had close to, if not double, the number of people in both the Warcrow and Conflict 47 tournaments, which I know that's weird that I'm specifically calling those out, but those are three of our stiffer competitors for the Best Miniatures game of 2025 Origins Award. So I don't know if the judges pay attention to that kind of stuff, but it's a little telling that at the world's largest miniature game show, we had more people than several of our rivals, our opponents in that category. So it was it's very cool. It was neat to see, and it ran well. We didn't have other than one hiccup, because I had paired during round 2. I had paired 2 people together, and then forgot to give them a table. So I get everyone their table set up, and then I turn and there's 2 people standing there like, where are we at? And I was like, over at this table. Oops. And then the only other hiccup that I had is I gave the round 3 scenario to all the players in round 2, and the round 2 scenario during round 3. It's not a big deal. The scenarios aren't weighted to a specific spot in the tournament. It just... for my own bookkeeping, I was like, oh yeah, I did it on the wrong. I added them in. I put them in the wrong order. A lot of good games were played. A lot of people had fun. I did have one thing that was unfortunate. So the first round's pairings for Eternals is completely random, and in the completely random, I had 2 players ended up getting assigned to each other as their first round fight that they always play. And I did feel like there was a little part of me that was like, God, they've played that exact game probably multiple times this weekend, and they've got to do it again at the tournament. I wish I would have seen those pairings. No, you know what? I don't. I'm glad that we kept it random, because it lends to the adds respect to the process, because we did have 2 people that got paired together that, I'm not hand-picking these pairings. I'm just shuffling them up and putting them on the table. So it is what it is, and it went away quick because, obviously into round 2 and round 3. But one of the things that happened during round 3 that I was completely blown away by, because it messed with the standings a lot, was, so the top 2 tables are obviously 4 players that have not lost a game, and they've all scored. They've scored decent points to get that high, or the top 3 tables. So the very top table ended up being a boyfriend and girlfriend fighting against each other. So it's like, okay, this is a battle where they're going to definitely keep it in the house, but there was a possibility, not a steep one. There was a possibility that one of the other 2 players, the ones at the players at table 2, if one of them would have had a landslide win, and table 1 would have not quite scored that many points for their winner, it was very possible for the third or fourth place person going into round 3 to overtake and become the top of the chain. And so I start getting the scorecards in, and table 2 hands them in, and it was a scoreless draw. I've never seen it before in my life. I was like, wait, are these all zeros? And like, yep, we just beat the hell out of each other. We didn't actually, score the objectives. And because of that, the runner-up, the person who's going to get their name on the trophy for now until the end of time, came from table 3. And I remember when I said, here's the runner-up, David Letizia, he he stopped what he was doing. He was like, "What?" Because again, you don't expect to be able to jump past the winner of table 2 to become, the runner up. But because they went to a scoreless tie, it allowed David's win to bop above their scores. It was awesome. It was really cool. And then, of course, the actual winner of the tournament and returning champion, but only by a couple of points, is Zach Grogan. Zach won it again, but it was a tighter game this time, a tighter set. Last year, Zach won with 3 perfect games, full score, no, just it was a I don't really like it was a shellacking, but that's not the right word. He played a perfect scored game last Eternals. This time he had a rough first game, low score. His last game, the score was high, but it could have gone either way if some of the dice would have been more kind to him, or been less kind to him. And in the middle of everyone, like the rest of everybody else, there was a lot of very close scores, which is I like to see things like that because it does mean that the scenarios are generally pretty balanced. I am getting a phone call from my doctor. Please hold. All right, sorry about that. It just was them letting me know that my x-rays are in about my back and I need to go in and talk to them. So I will wrap things up. So yeah, Zach ended up winning the tournament with a lower than perfect score, which, again, is still an amazing victory, but there were a lot more people with closer scores to his in this set of tournament, which in this tournament, because for me, that means that people are getting better at the game. They are getting more, I don't want to say the word competitive, but they're probably making less mistakes. 2 things I did learn about Eternals, about the Eternal Champions, after kind of during the process and whatnot. The first and foremost is, I know this is going to bum some people out, but I do not see it going to a 45 DP level anytime soon. Partially because there are not enough large point cost models to not turn it into a giant slog at higher points, but also because when people start playing more carefully and playing more competitively, they play slower. And we had, I'm going to say, less than 50% of the games played over the course of all 3 rounds actually finished in the time slot. Part of that is because it is a little bit of a rush, and you have to kind of get to your table, get everything set up, and get going all in the same kind of time chunk, because you only have so much room in the room. But also part of it is people are playing slower and more deliberate and trying to make sure they get the most out of all their activations and all of that. And I do believe that at higher point values, that's just going to get worse. So until we see the shift toward people taking larger models, more expensive models, I think it's probably going to stay at 40 DP. It's a nice size. It's a good game. You get a solid game with good tactics in at that point value. And the other thing we learned is, I think next year we're going to try to do Eternal Champions during the day. Now the reason why that is the reason why it was at night at all is because Alex and I were the only ones that really ran the booth before. We might have a demo guy, but collectively we had to be there. And I think going forward, We'll have more help because of tag. We'll have potentially, awesome demo core people. And Alex and I have a thing that we think we're going to be able to do later on, that will assist making having staff be more accessible. And one of those things that we think we're going to do is probably try and run the Eternal Champions next year during the day on Saturday instead of at night. It can be it's definitely hard on all of us to have to work the booth during the day, but it also it means that, like, you've got to, if one of the demo guys is trying to get to the thing or trying to get into the tournament, they've got to bust ass to get down there in time. And so I think that it's just going to be easier. Now, it does mean that there's a possibility that whoever is doing demos during the day on Saturday, they can't play. That is not necessarily a bad thing, depending. Not everybody likes to play in tournaments anyway. And who knows, maybe next year we'll have a helper or two from outside of the gaming, outside of the people playing the game. So we'll have the space covered. But again, Alex and I have some thoughts, and we'll try and figure out the logistics of all that in the future. And then, Eternals was over. Sunday was kind of a slow, a lot of kicking of tires, handful of small demos, and then a whole lot of saying goodbyes. We tear everything off, and then off we go. And I drove home, only to find out that my back's all wonked up. So overall, it was just a really good show, really good set of shows. And if you're a role player, I definitely think you should try and check out GaryCon at least once. And if you're a miniatures gamer, you should be going to Adepticon every year no matter what, because it's really the best. Now that that's over, if that's all you wanted to hear from me, get out of here. Turn it off, but don't forget to like, share, subscribe. But if you are sticking around for the week in Bryan, or 2 weeks in Bryan, we'll get to that. Before then, though, speaking of like, share, subscribe, and comment, the winner of the March Comment Raffle is MacDaddy3921 from episode 314. Yay! When this goes live, I will comment on your comment, let you know that you should reach out to me and let me know what your address is so I can send you some cool prize merch. All right, the weeks in Bryan. Obviously, I've already talked about all the gaming and stuff I did at the show, so I don't really need to talk about that. Other than last night, I had a fantastic playtest session on Secret Project. Still can't talk about it. Sorry. But it was a really good playtest session, and it highlighted one of the aspects of the setting that I was actually somewhat worried about translating the way I did. But it was dead on. And so on the drive home from the playtest session, one of the playtesters and I had a long conversation about that could have unfolded worse, but as it was portrayed in the rules, it came together perfectly, and it had all of the same feelings that we wanted, that we thought that it could have. It did. Last night's playtest was fantastic. Could not have asked for a better playtest last night. It showed off things. It showed me that the design itself worked. This is all around good stuff. And then I played a bunch of stuff at conventions. Hobbying, after I got the whatchamacallit done, the charity piece done, I kind of slowed down because I don't need to be at the table. But I brought back from Adepticon a bunch of models that are probably going to need to see some love soon. My next handful of weeks are really going to be devoted to work projects, so I probably won't get over there very often. But as I do, I'll show you some progress on things. How's that? Do we have a deal? Handshake. Personal. hurt my back. I'm on muscle relaxers. I'm on a serious anti-inflammatory, and I got to go talk to the radiologist about my X-rays. Which, so if you know anything about me, if you've heard me talk about it personally or on the channel, I have got very strong anti-medical field paranoia. Or anxiety. I am always, anytime that I'm around a hospital, even when I'm with like Natalie or whatever, I always get on edge. I'm always very concerned that they're going to send, like you're going to go in for a cough and come out with pancreatic cancer. Not like a conspiracy theory. Like I don't think that they're giving, false records or anything. I'm just always scared that they're going to find something. And not looking forward to talking to the radiologist, because I guarantee, with how this feels and how long it's been bugging me, I guarantee they're going to tell me that I need something, whatever that may be. I don't know. I don't think about it. But that's been part of the cap on my personal. But honestly, everybody else is in decent health. Everybody is doing well. My stepdaughter graduated from high school early, and Connor's doing well in his junior year. So yeah, I can't ask for much more. It's been doing great. Work stuff also been doing great. This week I'm going to be finishing up on those Dungeon in a Box creatures, to be able to tie that up with a bow. I know Thundercats and the adventure book are headed to print soon. Evil Dead 2 is headed to print soon. I just got in the mail, the fulfillment has finally started in the US for the Kong and Pacific Rim stuff that I did. So after 3 years of being at Evil Genius, my first physical products there have started to show up on shelves. So that's cool. A great preamble, or a great preview, like get that stuff out of the door, hopefully right before Intergalactic Heroes hits crowdfunding later this year. Just started to get real finished cover art for the Intergalactic Heroes books, and it looks great. Working to finish up the Shadowrun novel this month. And work continues on Xeogenesis, the Org, which is the fourth faction or third faction that is coming out, and obviously on Warzone constantly. Right now, our big thing is we're in talks with Zach for his 2026 Eternal Champions winning choice. He's got some lean on some things. I'm not gonna share or spoil it for anybody, but I think it's gonna be big for the game. I think it's gonna be big. That's pretty much it. I'm starting to actually get to the point where I've got several meetings for people to try and help them develop their minis games. Just as kind of a consultant. And I'm starting to get to the point where I may be able to have some manageable individual gigs, just a handful of retainer gigs, and not quite take as many outside things on constantly like I have been, which is good. I mean, I love being busy. I love having, all these things and doing all this stuff, but I don't love all the stress that comes with it sometimes, and all the long hours that comes with it sometimes. But overall, I'm very happy with all of the projects that I'm getting involved with. A couple of Shadow Dark conversions, just little things that shouldn't take me too long. But the big things are going very well. And that is I can't ask for much more than that, other than, someone to give me a winning lottery ticket, and then I'm independently wealthy and I can only work on the stuff that I want to work on. So that's pretty much it. Again, congratulations to Mac Daddy 3921, and glad to be back, glad to be home, glad to be able to work on things again. So yeah, until next week, which next week I'm going to go a little in deeper depth on the tournament kit scenarios that we used at Adepticon. Talk a little bit more about how you can get the tournament kit stuff and whatnot. So that's my schedule for next week. That's what I've got on schedule for next week. We'll see if that actually stays. Until then, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a shot, get a mask, get a shot, wear a mask if you have to. Don't lick doorknobs and try and be a better person than everybody around you and leave every room a little happier than when you got there. And I think everybody will be okay. So stay safe, have fun, and play some games, because I sure am. Bye, guys.